Bjorn is somebody who lives in Norway. He drives his Tesla throughout all of Norway, throughout Europe. And when he's doing that, he's also making videos on YouTube of his adventures. His videos are watched all over the world. I think he's the most viewed Tesla owner in the world with his YouTube videos. And it has been such a big success for him that actually buying a Tesla, the car, resulted into him quitting his job and just driving his Tesla all the time and making videos. That's all he does. Actually, it was Bjorn who told me that your Tesla Model S actually also is a camper car. Did you know this? If you put the seats down, you can actually fit a double bed in the back and you can sleep in it. I've seen videos of him doing it. What he does, I don't know, but he sleeps in it for sure. So, he's got an amazing story to share with you. He arrived here, of course, with his Tesla. What did you expect? Of course, Bjorn drives his Tesla all the way to Belgium. And I'm really looking forward to getting his speech. So, ladies and gentlemen, Bjorn Nyland.
All right, hello. Wow, this is so great to see so many people here. This is a little bit outside my comfort zone because usually I would be sitting in my Tesla having a couple noodles or sticky rice, but I'll do my best. So my passion for driving started about 15 years ago when I got my first car, but it was really when I got my, hang on, this is not working, this is typical demo effect. Excuse me, can you make this work? I need to go to the next slide. Oh, no, lag into the system. All right, that's fine. So it was really when I got my first, when I got the Renault Laguna that I really started making long trips. And one of the trips I used to take, I still take them, was going to Bodø. It's pretty far. It is 1,200 kilometers in Norway. And with a diesel car, it would usually take about 15 hours. That is including refuel breaks and some stops, food break, and all that. So it's far. I would take that trip about 3 times a year for Christmas, for summer, and Easter. So that would mean also summer and winter I would go there. And also with Renault, I started doing road trips, Europe road trips. And it was great because I love driving, and going through all of Europe was like I don't know, great for me, because I could see lots of countries, and with a plane, you just fly there, and then you see the country, and then you fly back. But with a road trip, you see the trip all over there. So in the beginning, I didn't drive too far. I drove like in Denmark and Netherlands, pretty much, that year. But it became more or less like a tradition for me to go on road trips. And also, yeah, like mentioned before, I tried sleeping in the car. It wasn't too comfortable because I didn't have a mattress, so it was a bit hard, and also it was a bit cold at night. Eventually, I upgraded the car, and then I got the BMW 5 Series. It's an E61 525D. It's an awesome car, and yeah, it had lots of equipment like full amp sport package. It has head-up display, night vision, panorama roof, lots of features, also tow bar. So I love that car. Something else happened when I had a car was I met Amory, which later became my wife. She's over there. And we went on a road trip. I took her on a road trip, Europe road trip, the tradition again. And this time we went further. We went all the way to southern France and also to Italy. And what I like about doing road trips is that there are gas stations all over the place, so you can just stop, refuel, and then off you go again. Only downside is, of course, that it's a bit expensive. But it was great. We got to see lots of the country, lots of the Europe, and yeah, here you see some more pictures. And also, like the Renault, we did some sleeping in the car. I upgraded slightly more with the mattress and all that. It was great, but still we had a problem that it was cold at night, so this kind of activity can only be done in summer in Norway, because you can't really keep the engine running all night. So I want to talk a little bit about the incentives in Norway, because Norway have the world's best incentive for electric cars. So this picture is, of course, of an E61, but you get the idea. So let's say that a typical premium car with some power and weight, it will have lots of taxes in Norway. And you see, so with the base price, you have to add this horsepower tax and CO2 tax and weight tax. So the heavier the car is, the more power it has, more tax it gets. Yeah, that's crazy, because other places in Europe, this car is not too expensive, but in Norway it is. And then you compare that with a Model S, which is a fully electric car. And a fully electric car in Norway doesn't have any taxes. So all you have to pay is pretty much for the car, not even VAT. So that's why there are so many Teslas in Norway, because of the tax, and also because we have lots of other incentives. So eventually, when I drove the BMW, Tesla came out, and I considered it, and I was like, all right, so I have to consider the pros and cons of the car. So what is good with a gasoline car, and what is good with an electric car? And I put all the specs together, and I found that, well, okay, so the Tesla is very, very tempting, because you have lots of power, and it's also green. I always wanted to go green, but before you had all these small-looking cars that didn't really look like cars. But then with a Tesla, it could be something, but for me, it was like 50-50 chance. Should I go for it, or should I not? So I wasn't sure, but eventually I went for it. I ordered a car, and when I got it in 2013, the day I got it, only hours after I received the car, I went on a road trip in winter. And it was a 1,000-kilometer trip in winter, and from Oslo to Trondheim and back. And I did learn a little bit about the car, because I've been watching videos all the time. I was waiting for the car. So I knew a little bit about the car. What I didn't know was how to conserve energy. So on the way back, I almost ran out of juice. And in the middle of the mountain, 1,000 meters over sea level, with freezing temperatures, I almost ran out of juice. But, well, you probably guessed it. I made it to the supercharger. Oh, yeah. So it was a bit interesting. And also after that initial trip, I started doing trips all over Norway, because there is a company called Nimber, where if you want to ship something, you put up a task in Nimber, and then someone like me or someone else can grab that item and then bring it. So that was like a good excuse for me to go all over Norway. So I did. So I went to like Trondheim, Stavanger, Bergen, all over the place, and I would go to places that I would usually never go, because I don't have friends there, but the task was like a good excuse for me. And I soon found out that the car has lots of storage, and it is a pretty large car. It's almost 5 meters long. It is larger than the BMW I had before. And you can put huge items in there, and also in the front, you have the front trunk, where you can put even more items. And also the car has a huge battery, which is like very central and under the floor. So it means like you have 600 kilos of weight that puts the center of gravity very low. And that, in combination with a motor, electric motor with no delay, means that it is a pretty good winter car. So I had a lot of fun in those mountains around Hemsedal in the winter. Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to the next winter, by the way. So all that stuff, I mean, all the trips made me see other parts of Norway that I would never have seen without the Tesla. Because before, well, I've been living in Norway for a long time, but I really didn't really travel anywhere. So I got to see really beautiful parts of Norway. And, well, not everything was beautiful, because one time I carried 14 live doves. And, yeah, they made a little bit of mess in the car. There were some feathers and some shit in there, but I think that's the first time I will carry doves, and probably the last time. So one of my challenges last year was going to North Cape. It was done before in 2012 by a guy called Fredrik Hauge from Bellona. He did go there, but he did it in the summer. So I wanted to do it different, and I wanted to do it in the winter with snow. So it was a pretty long run, and the problem back then was that we only had 2 superchargers that would cover that route, which was in Lillehammer and Dombås. That's it. So that means only 20% would be covered by supercharger. The rest would be covered by pretty much whatever you find. And the good thing about electric car is that electricity is found everywhere. But that trip needed some planning. So here was my plan. I had to contact lots of people. I had to find out how far I have to drive, the time. I need to know the power of the plug and calculate how long it takes to charge, how far I can go, and all that. Oh, it was so much hassle. But eventually, we started the trip, and the trip wasn't without any problems either, because when we came to Mosjøen, there was an industrial red plug. As you can see, we started charging there, and what happened? The fuse went out. So we had to lower the power, try again, okay, charge for like an hour, fuse went out again. So we had to lower it again. So eventually, we stayed there for 7 hours to charge enough to get to Bodø, yeah. So it was a lot of hassle. And another problem we had was snow and ice and winter. So we had to cross some mountains, and there were snowstorms there that shut down the road, and we had to wait on the foot of the mountain. But, you know, that's no problem. In a Tesla, just stay there with the heater on. So, yeah. Eventually, we got to North Cape. It was a great day, beautiful sights and all that. And to make things more interesting, on the way back, we carried 2 puppies. That was also another Nimba trip. And the previous owners, they gave me these gloves, and they told me that they would be for accidents. And I was like, what kind of accidents? And well, I soon found out, because before we even reached the first charger, the dogs, they have been barking in the back, and then the previous owner said, you don't have to stop if they just bark a little bit. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to keep going then. And then what happened? Well, they puked in the back, and they pooped in the back. But that was not the worst problem. The worst problem was when my wife took the dogs for a walk, and I was cleaning the cage. I had to find some snow, and then I cleaned the cage. And then she was shouting at me that one of the dogs ran away. That's not our dog. So the dog got in some tangle in some trees and then ran away. So it was so much drama, but we got it there. It was interesting trip. So that same summer, which is last year, we took our car on the first road trip through Europe. And that was also an interesting trip because back in the days, we had only 14 superchargers all over Europe, and 6 of them were in Norway. So that leaves only 8 superchargers for the rest of Europe. So that's not too much coverage. And also, those superchargers were not all of them were in the route we were going. So that was a bit challenging. I still made this spreadsheet with some names and all that, just to get there. And most of the places we were okay. But there were still some places that were a bit problematic. Like when going to Hanover, I was supposed to go to this semi-fast charger. And then when I opened the plug, it was just this Schuko, a household plug, which is really slow. It has to take like 20 hours just to charge it. So in desperation, I found this other place. And I came to this company. There was a charge box on the wall with a lock, and then how they open it. So this gentleman came out, Stefan, and then he asked me, "Hey, oh, Tesla, what, you need help?" I'm like, yes, I need help. And then he looked at me, "You are Bjorn, right?" I'm like, yeah. So it turns out he was one of my fans. So it was pretty interesting, and he helped me out. So that's great, because this trip was possible because there were so many people who was willing to help me. And most of them also own a Tesla, or they wanted to buy a Tesla soon. So we went to Switzerland and saw lots of great places there. And also, those places with the superchargers, when we came there, it was like coming to a sanctuary. All you have to do is plug it in, and then you go eat, and then after 15 minutes, half an hour, car is done. So it's so easy. We did also hit some problems, yeah. Like this one in Castorama. We were going to charge there. We came to the place, And then, well, the charger was there. I verified it. It was there. Problem is, it was Sunday, so it was closed. So the people who put up the charger, they didn't think about people wanted to go there any time of the day or night or weekday or weekend. So the solution was to call Tesla support, and then they found another charger, which was along the highway. But the problem was we had to stay there for 4 hours to charge. So if it was today, with this one, we used Type 2. And it was slightly, well, it was okay, but it took 4 hours. If it was today, we would probably use the shuttleable adapter, which would give us more juice, and then it would cut down the charging time to about 2 hours, 1.5 hours. Or if it was supercharger, yeah, like I mentioned, half an hour only. And that was last year. So this year, we went on another trip, and that was only like 9 months after the trip last year. And last year, we had 14 superchargers all over Europe. And this year, well, this Easter, 140. So that's 10 times more in just 9 months. Tesla, they've been, I don't know what kind of drug they use, but they've been building superchargers like crazy. So it was so easy to drive in Europe this year compared to last year. It was so nice and so pleasant that it was almost boring, I would say. I have to seek other places where there are not superchargers. And so when I considered buying the Tesla, there were some advantages and some disadvantages with the car. And I had some concerns, like whether this car would work as a normal car or if it would be too much hassle. And it turns out those hassles weren't really that big of an issue because of charging time. And because when you go to a supercharger, you usually do something else while you're waiting. You don't just sit and wait for the charge. But I did also find some other new features that I didn't know existed because I didn't know about the electric cars. For instance, that you don't really have to go to a gas station like every once or twice a week to refuel. All you have to do is just plug it in when you get home. And also, as for maintenance, I've been driving a lot, and I have almost no maintenance. Still not yet, after 180,000 kilometers. So, and yeah, another thing is that I mentioned earlier was the trip I took to Bodø. It was 1,200 kilometers, and with a diesel car, I spent 15 hours doing that. So you would imagine that driving that same trip with a Tesla would take a lot longer, even with superchargers. Well, guess not. Guess what? It only took 16.5 hours. And how is that possible? Well, if you refuel, first you have to stand there and refuel, and then you probably have to pay, and then you go to the restroom, and then you eat. And while you're doing that, the car is just idling there, sitting still. Whereas if you have a Tesla, you plug it in, and then you do all the things. So in reality, it doesn't take that much longer than a gasoline car. And this is a pretty long trip, so it's like a good benchmark for extreme trips. And okay, so when I considered the car, like I wasn't really sure whether I should buy it or not. It was like 50-50 chance to buy it. And then I figured, well, no, let's just go for it. Let's just try it. And if I don't like it, then maybe I can just sell the car. And I didn't really care too much about the environment when I bought it. But eventually, when I got the car, I actually became more environmental aware. And I also read some of the article that the one Weight by Not, that was really interesting. It's a really long one, but you should all read it, unless you haven't done it already. So it's pretty interesting. It makes you understand a little bit about why it is bad to burn fossil fuels. So that choice I made about 2 years ago to buy Tesla was probably one of the best choices I've did. And I remember even when I considered the electric car versus the BMW, there were some disadvantages, like, okay, I have to give up tow bar, and I have to give up head-up display. And there was also one other feature I thought I had to give up, and that was I had to give up Europe road trips. And I was so wrong about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bjorn. I really appreciate it. This guy is really amazing. You have to go to YouTube. If you just type in Bjorn Tesla, you'll find him. He's got his own YouTube channel. Really worth viewing it, but there is one thing he always says in his videos.
Oh, okay. Are we allowed to say it?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. That one?
Yes, good. Thank you very much.